I hope everyone out there had a great holiday season. It's the start of a new year in the wood shop, and I've got a new project, and one that I think is pretty cool. Very basic construction though, so any level of woodworking skill will do. I'm starting out cutting down an 8-foot long 1x8 pine board, and I'll give you dimensions on this, but they really don't matter. You can make one of these and adjust the measurements to any size you want or need. The construction is the same. After cutting, I give all the components a quick sanding to clean them up before assembly. If you have a wood shop, you most likely have a storage problem. And if you don't have one now, you probably will at some point. So I'm going to work on solving some of my storage needs by making an old style wooden ammo box in the style and method of construction they used way back when. Out of that 8-foot 1x8, I got the sides and one board each for the top and bottom. A 10-footer would have given me the ends as well. The rest of the narrow boards for the top and bottom and ends, etc., were from offcuts I had laying around, and I did use the table saw to rip them down to the width I needed. If you don't have a table saw, just plan out your dimensions to make use of the width boards that you can buy from your local supplier, and you're good to go. I'm using my laser again on this project to put the markings on the box, but you could use a stencil if you don't have a laser. That's actually more true to the originals, as that's the method they used. I'm using the laser because it's a lot quicker and easier, as you just program it and it does the work after that, as many times as you need it to. Just stick the board in, push the button, and away it goes. And since I have it, I might as well use it, right? Plus, it's kind of cool to watch. And yes, I am wearing the safety goggles to watch the laser in person. Here it is sped up to about 7 times speed. I think the actual time to do this was around 7 or 8 minutes to do this batch of lettering. The laser leaves a few scorch marks around the letters because it is actually burning the wood after all.
The laser fire has ceased.
So after all the lasering is done, I give it a quick going over with the random orbit sander with about 120 grit to clean it up. After that, it's time for some assembly. I'm using a couple old style hand screw clamps to hold the end pieces upright. Those really come in handy for things like that. Then I'm drilling and countersinking for screws to attach the bottom boards. They just nailed these on the originals, but I want mine to be nice and strong for years of service, so I'm using screws. You won't see these anyway, as it's at the bottom, so it won't detract from the more authentic original look. Then with the bottom on, I flip it over and hold the side up there and realize, duh, the bottom boards need to stick out the width of the sideboard to line up. So, got to go find some wider boards.
You idiot!
So after finding out precisely how many boards in my stash that I have that are a 1/4 inch too short, I did find enough to do the job. I take the boards off that are too narrow and leave the center one in place. I then use the old boards as templates to drill holes in the new boards and screwed them right into the same holes in the end boards. Crisis averted. At least that one anyway. Then I need some short boards for uprights on the ends, so I ripped down a few offcuts to about 2 3/8 inches wide or so on the table saw. And again, you could use furring strips for these if you don't have a table saw. Then a quick trip to the miter saw to cut them to length. Now back to assembly. These short boards I just cut will go on the ends as upright corner braces, and I'm using them here to just line up and position the side to attach it. I line it up and give it a quick pencil mark just in case I bump it out of position, then nail it on. I'm using nails to put the rest of the box together since that's true to the originals. Just using common hand-hammered nails that I had on hand. Length doesn't matter too much as they're going into the end of the other boards. I do check that my ends are fairly square, but I'm not overly concerned with fit and finish on this, as these were mass-produced and they were for a single-use case, and they were much more concerned with function over finish. If it comes out a little rough, that's okay. I added more screws through the bottom into the sides once I had those on, and that board on the bottom had a slight bend in it. So the clamps pushed it into position until the screws went in. Then more nails. With the sides on, I attached the end braces, and I'm using a little shorter nail here as they're just going into the side of the end board, and I don't want them sticking through. I've never really examined an authentic one up close, so it's very possible they did longer nails for this and bent them over on the inside. That was a common technique that many consider to be butchery and sloppy work, but it was intentionally used and actually makes for an extremely strong joinery method when you're using nails. And these things were designed to carry heavy munitions and be loaded and unloaded multiple times and travel on trains and heavy trucks. Mine won't see that much rough use, so I'm just using shorter nails. These upright braces get nailed to the end boards into the ends of the bottom boards, and then the sides get a couple nails through and into them as well. So they are tying the bottom, sides, and ends all together. Well, that's the basic box done. And now you get to see the cool logo that we burned in with the laser. Thanks to Newton Makes for the idea to put that on there. I'm subscribed to his channel, and he made a couple of these in a video a while back, and I'll put a link to that video in the description. A lot of you are probably subscribed to his channel already, but if not, check him out. He does some cool stuff. So anyway, now I'm making the top. I'm using 3 boards again for this just because that's how it worked out. You could use 2 or 4 or whatever you need to fit the size you want. I just lay them out and use the cross pieces to hold them together, and there's no rule as to where to put those. I've seen them on the ends or kind of spaced the way I'm doing it. On longer boxes, they might use 3. I went about 3.5 inches in from the end for mine. I tried to use my bigger speed square, but it was too big, so the little one will do. They don't have to be perfect. So a quick square up and drop square on the floor just for good measure. Clumsy much? I kept rechecking because every hammer hit makes things move, but I eventually got a passable lid for the thing. Hey look, it fits. Time for some hardware. But I didn't have any, so after a trip to town the next morning, I got a hasp and some T-hinges like they used on the originals, or at least the ones I've seen. I have it clamped to the bench just to hold it solid and keep it from moving around. I modified the hinges with a 90-degree bend and a couple extra holes so they were in the style of the originals, and installed those using the screws that came with them. I did have to use a slightly shorter screw for the ones going through into the top though, because those boards were milled down to slightly less than 3/4 of an inch thick, and I didn't want them poking through. Luckily, I had some on hand. After I got the hinges on and verified that they work okay, I went to install the hasp, which I'd also bent to make it in the style of the original, but quickly discovered that it was too short of a hasp to work in that configuration. Oops. That's not going to work. I stared at it, thought about it. Can I make this work? Ponder some more. Gears are turning. Don't really want to have to drive to town again for a longer hasp. Well, maybe I don't even really need one. Gonna have to rethink that one. So the problem is these things are the traditional type of latch that goes on these, but this is just too short because it won't clear this and be able to swing open. So I'm going to have to get a different one for that. But in the meantime, it's a box. So there it is, an old-fashioned wooden ammo box, kind of in the style of the originals. And the originals of these, they were just wooden crates that they nailed together. And that's why I use nails on all the visible parts. I use screws on the bottom to screw that on just to make it stronger. But they nailed those too. I may or may not put a latch on here. The only reason to have one on there is to make it more authentic, but I don't really need a latch on it, so I don't know if I will. This is kind of a fantasy thing anyway, especially with that logo on it. And I put a little bit different logo on the end and also put it on the back so the logos are all the way around. The other thing I've seen on these is a rope handle on the ends. And what they do is they actually put the rope into these uprights. They make a channel in the back, goes in 90 degrees. Then they put the rope in there, nail these on. And I think they glue it in. And that's the handle. I thought about putting 2 holes in here and putting a rope through and tying a knot on the inside, make those the handles. I may just do the flip up handles, metal handles, and put those on the ends, and those will flip down and be completely out of the way. So I kind of like that idea. I might get some of those. But I'm thinking I probably won't even put a latch on the thing. Works just fine. My nails came through just a tiny bit, just the very tip poking through. So I'll sand those off, and that shouldn't be a problem. But there she is. Now I've got another idea of what to do with these that I haven't seen anybody else do. I'm going to try to pull that off in the next video. So if you're curious, come on back and see what I do. See ya.